going on, you guys? For those of you who are new to my channel, my name is Michael Elefante. My wife and I began investing in real estate at age 26 years old. Today we are both 30, and within 12 months of making that first investment, we became financially free, meaning we had more income from our real estate investments or passive income that far exceeded our actual monthly living expenses and covered our desired lifestyle. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through how we got to that point within 1 year, some tips of how you can get started and scale to that amount as well, and then where we are at today. Financial freedom is simply having enough residual or passive income or a lump sum of money in the bank that can basically pay your monthly bills in perpetuity for the rest of your life. Now, I will tell you, I consider there to be 3 stages of financial freedom. Stage 1 is very simple. Write this down after watching this video, but what are your living expenses? How much money do you spend on rent or your mortgage? How much money do you spend on a car bill or gas? And then how much money do you spend on food and water, essentially? So the cost that you incur each month to basically live. So that's stage 1. For a lot of people, that's probably not as much money as you think that you need. Stage 2 financial freedom is beyond just paying for your basic monthly living expenses to what you need to survive. So stage 2 financial freedom is that plus the amount of money that you want to spend for like your base or minimum desired lifestyle. So if you want to spend 2 to 4 weeks traveling throughout the year, you have that amount of money to cover it. For example, my wife and I just got back from a 15-day vacation to Switzerland and Austria, which we had a blast on. And what's even better is that when we got back from that trip, we did not have to go to a job on Monday morning. Now, stage 3 financial freedom is basically having FU money, but in my opinion, a good way. So instead of just thinking like, I'm gonna go drive Bugattis and all these crazy cars and buy a yacht, although if that's what you want, that could be considered stage 3. What I consider this stage to be is, yes, you have enough to cover your basic living expenses, you can start to live a little bit beyond your means, and now at this point, you can even give beyond your means. So you have enough to upgrade your house, your car, and then you could donate to any charitable cause, you could help family and friends out, you can take your friends out to a nice dinner, pay for everybody, and not blink twice at the bill at the end of the night. So that's stage 3 financial freedom, and who knows, maybe even retire your parents or other loved ones. A lot of people conflate financial security or stability with financial freedom. Now, before I got into real estate, I had financial stability. I had a very good paying job. I worked in a sales department at a few different tech companies, and my wife did the same. Now, we were making substantial income, or what we thought was substantial income at the time. We still were trading 40, 50, or 60 hours a week for our paycheck. So we were trading time for money. So as long as you're trading time for money and you have an active source of income that is funding your entire lifestyle and your living expenses, you do not have financial freedom. So we found that we did not value money as much because we had upgraded our lifestyle a couple times. We got into a nicer apartment, then we bought a house, a nicer car, and we realized that these things were not bringing us intrinsic happiness. So what we wanted was the time to spend with each other, the time to do whatever we wanted, to travel, no boss, no PTO, and really just take charge of every single day that we were living. And there's no difference between a Saturday and a Sunday and a Monday morning. I remember reading this book called The Cash Flow Quadrant, which is more or less a sequel to Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And in this book, they go over this quadrant. And the quadrant has 4 different sections. The E quadrant, which stands for employee, the S quadrant, which stands for self-employed, and then the other side of the quadrant, you have the business owner, or the B quadrant, and then the I, which stands for investor. Now, my biggest takeaway from this book is that I needed to transition from the E and the S side of this quadrant, which is trading time for money, and move over in some way, shape, or form to the B or the I side, where now I had other people or my money working for me. And the thing that made the most sense to me was to get into real estate. You hear all the time that 90% of millionaires were made through real estate, and there is a lot of truth to that. Now, real estate made the most sense to me because it's a hard physical asset that you can put money into. There's a lot of different ways to get started, and it grows your wealth over time, and it prints money in the form of cash flow every month. So if you're doing a long-term rental, you have a tenant in there, less your mortgage and your other expenses is your cash flow every single month. With long-term rentals, traditionally, you're getting into a unit that cash flows $200 to maybe $300 per month. Now, that is amazing, but I was doing the math in my head. I was going back to what I thought my financial freedom number is, or my desired financial freedom number, which is like around $10,000 per month. More than enough to pay for our living expenses and support at least the minimum desired lifestyle. $10,000 per month divided by $200 is 50 units, 50 long-term rental units. That seemed so far-fetched for me, and it seemed like I would have to be in a constant state of a grind to get to 50 units. So I started to look at other ways in real estate that I could have a much higher grade of cash flow every single month. And the thing that I kept coming back to time and time again was short-term or vacation rentals. Now, you're probably familiar with short-term rentals, even if you're not familiar with the term. If you've ever stayed in an Airbnb or a Vrbo, you have stayed at a short-term rental property. Short-term rentals seem like the most viable option for me to get to that $10,000 per month in passive income, because I realized one single property had the potential to cash flow not hundreds of dollars per month, but thousands of dollars per month. An average short-term rental typically cash flows around $2,000 to $3,000 per month. So in my mind, I'm like, I could get 4 or 5 units that cash flow $2,000 to $3,000 a month and hit my $10,000 a month in passive income every single month and be financially free. That sounded a lot more attainable and realistic to me in a short period of time than getting 50 long-term rental units. And keep in mind, with my sales job, I had gotten to the point where I was like, if I have to sit on one more sales meeting on a Monday, if I have to go into work and deal with employees and deal with customers that frankly I didn't care about and just burn 60 hours a week until I was 65 years old, I was going to go crazy. So I wanted the fastest path to financial freedom. So fast forward, I studied different markets, learned how to evaluate properties. At 26 years old, I spent like 6 months digging into it, looking at different markets. At the time, we lived in Nashville, Tennessee. This is 2019. So I just started looking in Nashville for my first short-term rental property. We found a property that made sense. It was around $495,000 at the time. We put 15% down. And one caveat to short-term rentals that I really didn't think through fully was that you have to pay for furniture. So I actually sold my truck, which I had just finished paying off. RIP, I love that thing. It was a GMC Sierra 1500. Sold it so I had the appropriate amount of money to furnish the property in a way that would help me market it to the desired crowd or traveler coming to Nashville. And that targeted crowd was bachelorette parties. So we wanted to theme it in a way that we could charge more per night than our competition and be booked more frequently than our competition. That theory proved to be true. So we closed on that property in the end of October 2019, launched it in mid-December, and then by March, we were set to cash flow like $7,000 in a single month. March is the start of the busy season in Nashville. That was like the light bulb moment for us. We're like, this is nuts. Now we all know what happened in March and April of 2020. COVID came to the US and we had an insane amount of cancellations come in, unfortunately. But we saw, the writing on the wall, in my opinion, was COVID. Is it going to be around for a month, 2 years? I was more optimistic, so we were all in and ready to get our second unit right there. So all in that we liquidated our retirement accounts, our 401k, our IRA accounts, paid the tax penalty, and we got our second unit in May of 2020. Now, with COVID lingering in Nashville and a lot of urban areas, it wasn't super busy, but we were still cash flowing a little bit. But now those 2 units today consistently cash flow about $6,000 per month each. So before I even get further along in this story, those 2 units already surpassed our stage 2 financial freedom number, which was $10,000 per month in passive income. So 2 units versus 50 units. Just keep that in mind. And that's the power of short-term rentals. But with COVID lingering, we decided to look in the rural areas such as the Smoky Mountains. We saw a ton of people visiting other markets, so we wanted to diversify. We knew travel was eventually going to come back to Nashville, but we knew we needed a vacation market where people would still flock to in times of uncertainty, like we were in. So we got a property in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, and that property just went nuts. And I remember the first month that we hit our financial freedom number, we were cash flowing on those 3 properties in November of 2020, over $14,000 in a single month. And we have never looked back since. So we had hit financial freedom in less than 12 months of making our first ever investment into real estate. Now keep in mind, this sounds really far-fetched for a lot of you watching, but my wife and I set the goal of hitting financial freedom in 10 years. We hit it in just 1 year. So if you manifest in your vision and just get started and execute, you guys will get there a lot faster than you may think. Something I wish I knew before getting started is that you don't need a ton of money to get your first real estate deal. This held me back for years, thinking that I needed a bunch of money to put down a down payment, pay for closing costs, all these things to transact on my first real estate deal. And then with short-term rentals, it's quite special because you don't even have to buy the property. You can do something called rental arbitrage, where you're basically getting a commercial lease and permission to sublet the property, so no down payment, no credit, no closing costs. And then we have co-hosting and property management, where you costs really no money to get started and you manage somebody else's short-term rental property for them for a percentage of the revenue that that property generates. That's an amazing way to scale, and that's how my property management company, Home Team Vacation Rentals, started and scaled to over 300 units under management within the first 12 months. So that was back in 2020. Like I said, my wife and I were all in. We got our 4th unit in April of 2021 and officially quit our jobs. It was our dream just to quit and travel. So we got in a camper van, rented our primary home out as a long-term rental because we couldn't do it as a short-term rental. And with our 4 short-term rentals or Airbnb properties, we were off towards the West Coast and traveled for the next year. So if any of you watching are interested at ditching your 9-to-5 job, ditching the rat race and going all in on short-term rentals and financial freedom, then I highly recommend checking out BNB Investor Academy. You can hit the website here or the link below. We teach you how to successfully find, invest in, set up, and manage short-term rental properties, just the way I do in my own business. Fast forward to 2023, my wife and I have 7 short-term rental properties that do on average $80,000 to $130,000 per month in revenue, and our cash flow on that typically ranges from $50,000 to $70,000 per month. It's crazy to think that we started just 4 years ago, but I want you all to think about that for a second, because many of you are watching this video thinking, oh, it must be nice, I wish I could do it, couldn't possibly be me. I was thinking those same thoughts for years before getting started. I can tell you with complete confidence, sitting here where I am today, that it is 100% worth whatever perceived risk you have about getting started. And it doesn't have to be real estate. It could be any other type of business, creating any other form of passive income. It is 100% worth it. And you will miss 100% of the shots that you don't take.